The night was quiet on the red desert of Mars. Wind moved slowly over the rocks, carrying dust like smoke in the air. The colony lights blinked far away, small and lonely under the dark sky. Ethan stood outside the security tower staring at the stars. His duty was boring most nights. Nothing ever happened out here until that sound came. A loud boom broke the silence. The ground shook under his boots. A bright blue flash cut through the clouds and fell behind the northern ridge. For a second, the whole desert glowed like lightning had struck it. Then darkness returned. Ethan's radio buzzed. "Control to Unit 7, what was that?" He pressed the mic. "Unknown object, maybe a meteor. I'm checking it out." He grabbed his helmet, powered his rover, and drove into the night. The engine hummed softly. As he got closer, he saw smoke rising from behind the rocks. His screen showed strange energy readings, something not human. His heart began to beat faster. The crash site looked like a wound in the land. Sand and metal were mixed together. A small craft, half buried, burned with blue fire. The air smelled like ozone and something sweet. Ethan stepped closer, scanning with his device. No human tech matched the readings. It was alien. "Hello?" He called softly, unsure who he was talking to. Then he heard it. A tiny cry. A soft trembling sound like a child's voice. He froze. The cry came again from inside the wreckage. He pushed aside metal pieces, burning his gloves. Under a broken panel, he saw something moving. It was small, about the size of a human toddler with smooth, silver-blue skin and bright, glowing eyes. It was alive, but terrified. The creature looked at him and tried to move back. Ethan slowly raised his hands to show peace. "It's okay. I won't hurt you," he whispered. The child was bleeding light blue liquid. Ethan used his first aid gel on the wounds. The small body stopped shaking. The child stared at him, confused but calm now. Then a sound came from the sky. A drone engine. Ethan looked up and saw government searchlights sweeping across the land. He cursed under his breath. The colony defense would arrive soon, and they didn't like surprises. Anything alien was taken, tested, or destroyed. He looked at the small creature again. It reached out a tiny hand, touching his glove. The touch was warm. The child's eyes glowed brighter, like it trusted him. "All right," he whispered. "You're coming with me." He wrapped the small being in his heat blanket and ran to the rover. The sensors beeped with warning. The drone was getting closer. Ethan turned off all lights and went dark mode. He drove silently, hiding behind rock shadows. As he moved away, he saw more lights in the sky, multiple ships descending. Whoever they were looking for something. Or someone. Halfway back, his radio crackled again. "Unit 7, report status," he replied calmly. "No debris found. Probably a meteor. Heading back to base." "Copy that." The voice faded. He sighed with relief but kept driving fast. Back at his small shelter on the edge of the colony, he carried the creature inside. The airlock hissed closed. Inside the warm room, he placed the child on his bed. It looked weak but peaceful. Ethan knelt beside it. "What are you?" he whispered. "And why did you fall here?" The child didn't speak, but its glowing eyes blinked slowly. Then it touched the air and a soft light image appeared above its hand. A small sphere of stars with one bright point flashing red. "A map, maybe?" Ethan stared in awe. Then the image vanished. The child's energy faded and it fell asleep. Ethan sat back, his mind racing. He had just rescued an alien child. The government would arrest him if they found out. But something deep inside told him he did the right thing. Outside, lightning flashed across the Martian sky. In that flash, Ethan saw a shadow move on the ridge. Something, or someone, was watching his home. He reached for his blaster and turned off the lights. The shadow vanished. The desert went silent again, but Ethan's heartbeat did not slow. He looked at the sleeping alien one more time. "I don't know who you are," he whispered, "but I'll keep you safe." The night outside was dark and endless, and somewhere in that darkness, something powerful was searching for the lost child. Ethan didn't know yet, but this choice would change his entire life. The morning light on Mars was pale and cold. Dust floated like gold mist through the thin air. Inside his small metal shelter, Ethan woke with a start. For a moment, he forgot everything that had happened last night. The crash, the strange blue fire, the alien child. Then he turned his head and saw her. The small alien child was still asleep, wrapped in his old blanket. Her silver blue skin glowed faintly like moonlight. She looked peaceful now, not afraid like before. Ethan stared at her, feeling something strange, a quiet sense of responsibility. He whispered, "You're real, not a dream." Suddenly, the shelter lights blinked red. Warning, scanner sweep approaching. Ethan's stomach turned. The colony's search drones were doing their morning scan for unauthorized energy signals. If they detected the alien child's life signs, it would be over. He jumped from his bed, quickly pulling out the old metal plates he used for repairs. He covered the small window, then turned off all power except life support. The room went dark. Outside, a low hum filled the air. He held his breath. The hum grew louder, passing right above the roof. The scanner beam flashed white through the cracks of his walls, searching for life signs. The alien child stirred, glowing slightly brighter. Ethan whispered sharply, "Shh, stay still." But she didn't understand his words. Her eyes opened, glowing bright silver. For a terrifying second, Ethan thought they'd be caught. Then she raised a small hand and the light from her body faded, like she turned it off herself. The scanner passed. Silence returned. Ethan slowly exhaled. He knelt beside her and smiled. "You're full of surprises, little one." The child blinked, her head tilting like she was trying to copy his smile. Later that day, Ethan searched the crash site's data he'd collected. His tablet showed energy patterns and alien codes he didn't understand. But one thing was clear. The ship wasn't from any known system the humans had mapped. Whoever sent her was far beyond their reach. He looked back at the child. She was sitting on the floor now, drawing circles in the dust with her finger. When he approached, she touched his wrist gently and said one word in a soft, echoing voice. "Lyra." Ethan froze. "Lyra, is that your name?" The child nodded once, her small face serious. "Okay," he said with a half smile. "Lyra it is." He handed her a small protein bar. She sniffed it, curious, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened and she smiled, her first real smile. Ethan laughed quietly. "Guess that means yes." For the first time in years, he felt something human again. Connection. That evening, he decided to move her to a safer place. His shelter was too exposed. He knew an old mining tunnel deep under the hills, abandoned since the oxygen crisis years ago. The scanners couldn't reach that far below. He packed supplies, food, lights, water, and his blaster. He wrapped Lyra in a warm cloak and carried her to the rover. The desert outside was silent except for the whispering wind. They drove through the narrow valley under the red sky. The landscape was endless, empty, and cold. Ethan's mind kept racing. What if someone saw him? What if they tracked his rover? But when he looked at Lyra beside him, small, calm, watching the stars through the window, he felt his fear fade a little. After an hour, they reached the old mine entrance. Ethan unlocked the gate with an old access code. The inside smelled of dust and metal. The tunnel stretched deep into darkness. "This will do," he said quietly. They set up a small camp inside. A power light, a sleeping pad, a heater. Lyra touched the walls curiously. Then to Ethan's shock, glowing blue vines began spreading across the stone where she touched it. The air grew warmer. The dead tunnel felt alive again. Ethan whispered, "What are you doing?" Lyra looked at him and smiled as if saying, "It's safe now." Hours later, Ethan sat by the dim blue light, watching her sleep. He couldn't stop thinking, if the government finds her, they'll take her away. Maybe even dissect her. He clenched his fists. "No," he said softly. "Not happening." He looked at the tiny alien child who somehow trusted him more than his own kind ever did. In her calm breathing, he found something worth protecting, something pure. Then his communicator blinked. A message from command. "All units, unidentified object confirmed. Recovery teams authorized." So survivors expected. Ethan's heart went cold. They were coming. They thought whatever crashed was still dangerous. He turned off the communicator. "This is not just about survival anymore," he whispered. "It's about her." Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying dust across the red plains. Far away, lights moved in the distance, search ships sweeping the horizon. Ethan held his blaster tight and looked at Lyra one last time. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing for sure: he would protect her. No matter what. And far above the Martian desert, unseen by human eyes, something moved among the stars, watching, searching, waiting for the moment to strike. The next few days passed in silence deep inside the old mine. Ethan had turned it into a secret home, a few lamps, food crates, and a small heater powered by his rover's cell. The walls still glowed softly where Lyra's hands had touched them, giving off a calm blue light that never faded. For a place buried under miles of rock, it felt strangely alive. Ethan sat at the entrance tunnel staring at his scanner. Every few minutes a faint radar ping blinked across the screen, search ships flying above. The government wasn't giving up. He knew they were still hunting for the crash. And if they found out what he was hiding, he'd be done. He turned to Lyra. She was sitting cross-legged near the heater, playing with his old drone. She had somehow reprogrammed it without touching any buttons. It hovered smoothly, flashing gentle light patterns in the air. "You're too smart for a kid," he said, shaking his head. Lyra giggled softly, and the drone danced around his head like it understood her. Ethan smiled for the first time in days. Then something strange happened. The walls around them flickered, like the air itself was shifting. Lyra froze. Her bright eyes widened as she stood up slowly. Ethan's scanner started beeping uncontrollably. "What's going on?" he asked. Lyra didn't answer. Instead, she raised her small hand toward the air. The glowing light from the wall bent toward her fingers, twisting into a shimmering sphere. Inside the sphere, stars began to appear, hundreds of them, forming a moving map of the galaxy. Ethan stepped closer, speechless. Then, a voice filled the cave. Soft, echoing, almost human, but not. "To any being who shelters my child, please listen." The light in the sphere expanded and a figure appeared, a tall alien woman with the same silver-blue skin as Lyra, her long hair glowing like starlight. Her eyes were calm but full of sadness. Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. The woman looked directly at him, even though it was only a hologram. "My name is Saren, mother of Lyra of the Bravery. Our ship was attacked by human war drones near your colony's orbit. My daughter escaped before impact. I'm searching for her, but danger surrounds your world." Ethan's hands trembled. He looked at Lyra, who was staring at the image with tears shining in her eyes. Saren continued, her voice filled with both fear and strength. "If you have found her, protect her. She carries what your people will not understand. They will fear her, or use her. I will come for her soon. Follow the red star when the moons align." The sphere pulsed once more and dissolved into light. Silence filled the tunnel. The only sound was Ethan's heartbeat. He sat down slowly, trying to understand what he'd just seen. "She's her mother," he whispered. "She's alive." Lyra crawled to his side and touched his arm. A tear rolled down her glowing cheek. Ethan felt something inside him shift, something deeper than fear or duty. He wasn't just hiding an alien anymore. He was protecting a family's last hope. Later that night, he recorded everything he saw onto his data pad. The message, the coordinates, everything. But the moment he tried to save it, the screen glitched. A warning flashed. Unauthorized transmission detected. His stomach dropped. "They've traced me." Outside, a distant rumble shook the ground. The tunnel dust fell from above. Then he heard it, the sound of engines coming closer. He ran to the rover's radar. 2 government scout ships were heading straight for the old mine. "Lyra, we have to move," he shouted. The small girl stood up calmly. Instead of running, she walked to the tunnel wall and placed her hands on it. Blue light surged through the stone again. The entire tunnel shimmered, then closed. The metal gates sealed with thick crystal layers like living glass. Ethan couldn't believe it. "You blocked them out?" Lyra looked weak now, her glow fading. She stumbled and he caught her in his arms. "Easy, kid. Don't push yourself." She whispered something in her strange, soft language, pointing upward, toward the stars beyond the rock ceiling. Ethan couldn't understand, but he felt the meaning in her tone. Mother is coming. Hours later, when everything went quiet again, Ethan sat beside her, brushing dust off her small hands. She was asleep, breathing softly, light fading and returning like a pulse. He stared into the dim blue glow and whispered to himself, "What are you really carrying, Lyra? Why would humans attack your ship?" Outside, far above the planet, 2 opposing fleets floated in silence. Human ships and Bravery scouts, both searching for the same thing. In the quiet mine, Ethan looked at Lyra and said softly, "If they come for you, they'll have to go through me first. Then, somewhere deep in the shadows, unseen by either of them, a faint red light blinked on the wall, an active tracking beacon. Hidden among the rocks, they were not as safe as Ethan thought. The next morning, the mine was silent, but too silent. Ethan's instincts whispered that something was wrong. The air felt heavier, colder. He checked his sensors again. The screen showed static for a moment, then a sharp red blip appeared. Motion detected above ground. He froze. They found us. Quickly, he packed their few supplies, food, tools, the tablet with the mother's message. Lyra was still sleeping, her glow dim but steady. He lifted her gently, wrapping her in a thermal cloak. The hum of engines echoed through the tunnel. Rocks trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan rushed toward the rover parked near the lower exit. Outside, the Martian sky wasn't quiet anymore. 2 black drones circled high above, their searchlights cutting through the red dust storm like knives. Behind them, a massive transport ship hovered, its guns scanning the surface. Ethan cursed under his breath. The government had sent the hunters. He started the rover in silent mode, its wheels moving softly across the sand. The storm was rising, strong winds pushing curtains of dust around them. It was dangerous, but it was their only cover. Lyra stirred in his arms. "Stay quiet, okay?" Ethan whispered. She blinked weakly and pointed at the sky. A faint blue shimmer flickered around her hand, energy like before. "No," he said firmly. "Don't use your power. They'll sense it," but she didn't stop. The shimmer grew brighter, and suddenly Ethan saw the dust around them bend, forming a swirling barrier of sand and light. Within seconds, they were hidden, completely invisible to the drones above. Ethan's eyes widened. "You little miracle." For the first time, he realized Lyra wasn't just surviving, she was adapting, learning to control her gifts faster than any human child could learn to walk. The storm howled outside as he drove deeper into the wasteland. The radar still blinked. One drone was tracking them. Ethan slammed his fist on the controls. "They're locking on." He turned sharply toward a canyon ahead. The rover skidded on loose sand and slid into the ravine just as a plasma beam hit the ground where they'd been seconds ago. The blast threw sand and fire into the air. Ethan shielded Lyra, feeling the shock wave shake through his bones. "Hold on!" The rover crashed through rocks, sparks flying until it stopped against a wall. The engines died, smoke filled the air. Ethan coughed, pushing open the door. "We have to move!" He grabbed Lyra and ran into the canyon's narrow path. The sky above glowed orange with fire. The drone's red lights followed them through the dust. Ethan fired his blaster upward. 2 quick shots. One beam hit the drone's camera, sending it spinning. But the other drone swooped lower, firing back. He dove behind a rock, pulling Lyra close. Stones exploded around them. "I'm not dying here," he growled. Then something strange happened. Lyra stood up. Her small hands glowed brighter than before, brighter than the sun through the dust. The air around her shimmered, and a wave of light shot upward. The drone froze midair, engines whining, and then dropped, straight into the sand, silent and dead. Ethan blinked, stunned. You shut it down?" Lyra looked at him with calm, glowing eyes. For the first time, Ethan saw something ancient in her gaze, like wisdom far beyond her years. He whispered, "Who are you really, kid?" They hid in a cave inside the canyon, resting as the storm raged outside. Ethan cleaned the cut on his arm from the crash. Lyra sat nearby, tracing symbols in the sand with her glowing fingers. The shapes looked like stars and circles connected by lines, a constellation map. Ethan leaned closer. "Is that where your mother is?" She nodded slowly, pointing at one red circle that blinked brighter than the rest. "The red star," he murmured. "She said to follow it when the moons align." He checked his watch. In less than 2 days, Mars's twin moons would cross paths in the sky. That was their window. He smiled faintly. "Then that's where we'll go." But as they rested deep in the night, a faint mechanical sound came from the back of the cave, a small, blinking device stuck in the rock wall. Ethan's eyes widened. A tracker. He ripped it out and crushed it under his boot. But it was too late. Outside, engines roared again. Lights cut through the storm, searching the canyon. Lyra clung to his arm, her eyes wide with fear. Ethan lifted his blaster and whispered, "It's okay. We'll make it. I promise." The sky exploded with red light as ships descended. Ethan and Lyra ran deeper into the caves, shadows chasing them. Behind them, the hunters landed. Their leader stepped out in black armor, visor glowing red. "Unit 7, we know you're in there." The voice boomed through the canyon speakers. Hand over the alien child. Ethan's jaw tightened. He looked down at Lyra, trembling but brave. He whispered, "They can't have you." He raised his weapon, eyes burning with determination. Outside, thunder rolled across the desert. The hunters were closing in. But for the first time in his life, Ethan wasn't afraid of them. He was ready to fight for something that truly mattered. The night burned red above the canyon. Ships hovered like dark birds of war, their engines rumbling across the Martian wasteland. Inside the deep cave, Ethan and Lyra hid in the darkness, their breath quiet, their hearts loud. Ethan pressed his ear against the cold rock wall. He could hear the hunters moving outside. Footsteps, metal clanks, the crackle of scanners searching for life signs. They were surrounded. He whispered to himself, "They found us faster than I thought." Lyra sat beside him, her small hands glowing faintly. Her light was weak now, flickering like a dying candle. Ethan touched her shoulder. "Hey, save your strength, kid. We'll find a way out." But Lyra shook her head slowly, then looked upward as if listening to something Ethan couldn't hear. "Lyra?" he whispered. Her silver eyes turned distant. Then a strange vibration filled the air, a pulse that seemed to come from her chest. The walls around them began to hum softly. Ethan stepped back, his scanner lighting up with unreadable signals. "What are you doing?" he asked. Before he could react, a wave of soft blue light spread across the cave. The air shimmered, and then she appeared, a tall figure, the same woman from the earlier hologram, but clearer now, almost real. The alien mother, Saren, stood before them, her voice echoing gently through the air. "Ethan, protector of my child, the time for truth has come." Ethan's heart stopped. You can see me?" Through her mind. "I can reach you," Saren said, her expression calm, yet full of pain. "Lyra's energy has grown strong enough to open a link." Ethan stepped closer, unsure if he was dreaming. "Tell me what's happening. Why are they after her? Why did your ship crash?" Saren's glowing eyes darkened. "Because Lyra carries what your kind calls power, but to us, it is life. She holds within her the seed of harmony, a living force that can connect species across worlds. My people created it to bring peace between civilizations, but the humans, they tried to take it." Ethan's fists tightened. "The government?" "Yes," she replied softly. "Your leaders discovered our transmission and attacked us in secret. They wanted to weaponize the seed, to control minds, energy, and even time itself. I hid it within my daughter before we fell." Ethan looked at Lyra, who sat quietly, her eyes full of light. "You mean, she is the seed?" "She is life itself," Saren said. "But she is also a child, one who feels love and fear, as you do. You protected her when your own kind hunted her. That act has already changed her bond with you. She trusts humans now." "She trusts you?" Ethan felt his throat tighten. He remembered her tiny hand reaching for him in the crash, her quiet laugh when she ate her first meal, her eyes glowing when she smiled. "I didn't do it for reward," he said. "I did it because no one else would." Saren smiled faintly. "That is why she chose you." Before Ethan could reply, the sound of heavy boots echoed through the cave. The hunters had entered the tunnels. "Ethan, halt," a voice shouted. "Surrender immediately." Saren's image flickered. Her tone became urgent. "You must leave this place. They cannot be reasoned with. If they capture her, they will destroy everything she represents." "But where do I take her?" Ethan demanded. "To the Red Star," Saren said. "When the moons cross, a gate will open above the canyon. Bring her there, I will come for her." Her light began to fade. "Protect her even if it costs your life." And then she was gone. The cave fell silent again, except for the distant echo of soldiers drawing closer. Ethan turned to Lyra. "All right, kid," he said softly. "Looks like we've got a date with the stars." She tilted her head, not fully understanding, but her small hand slipped into his. Her touch was warm, alive. Ethan took a deep breath, grabbed his blaster, and looked toward the tunnel's exit. The hunter's shadows were moving closer now, he whispered. They want to use you as a weapon, but I won't let that happen. You're not a weapon, Lyra. You're hope. She blinked once, her glow brightening at his words. Then, for the first time, she spoke clearly in his language, her voice soft and musical. Ethan. Family. The word hit him like lightning. He looked at her stunned. Yeah, he said, smiling through the fear. Family. Outside, the storm began to clear. The two moons of Mars were slowly drawing closer together in the blood-red sky. The moment her mother had spoken of was coming. Ethan held Lyra close, ready to run, ready to fight. Above them, the first searchlight broke through the cave ceiling, flooding them with harsh white light. He raised his weapon and whispered, "Come on, then. You'll have to go through me first." The war for one small child and the future of two species was about to begin. The red moons of Mars hung above the sky, crossing slowly like two burning eyes. The air was thick with sand and firelight. Ethan stood at the mouth of the canyon, clutching his blaster while Lyra hid behind a wall of glowing stones she had formed to protect them. He could hear the hunters moving closer, metal boots crunching through gravel, the hum of plasma rifles warming up. The commander's voice echoed through a loudspeaker. Ethan Holt, you are ordered to surrender the alien. If you resist, you will be executed for treason. Ethan smiled grimly. Yeah, you've said that before. He checked his energy cell, half left. Not much, but enough for one last stand. Lyra tugged his sleeve gently. Ethan, go. He knelt beside her, shaking his head. No, kid. I made a promise. Her eyes glowed softly. They hurt you. I've been hurt before, he said with a grin. But this time, it means something. Outside, a storm of red dust began to rise, swirling between the cliffs. The hunters fired flares that cut through the air like comets. Ethan looked up and saw them, dozens of soldiers in black suits rappelling down the canyon walls. Behind them, a carrier ship hovered, its engines roaring like thunder. The commander's voice came again. Last chance, Holt. Step away from the creature. Ethan took a deep breath and whispered to Lyra, when I say run, you run toward the red star. Your mother will find you. She looked confused, frightened. You come too? He hesitated for a moment, then forced a smile. Yeah, I'll be right behind you. The first blast hit the rocks near him. Fire and dust exploded in all directions. Ethan rolled behind cover and returned fire. His shot struck two soldiers, their armor sparking. The canyon became a battlefield. Red sand, blue energy light, echoing explosions. Lyra screamed as debris rained down. She raised her hands and a bright wave of energy burst out from her, pushing the attackers back like a storm. For a second, the world stood still. The hunters stumbled, shocked. Their scanners went offline. Ethan stared in awe. Good job, kid. But the commander recovered quickly. EMP field detected. Deploy net drone. From the ship above, a black sphere dropped and unfolded mid-air, spinning, glowing red. It released a grid of electric energy that began to fall toward them. Ethan fired at it, but his shots bounced off. Damn it! Lyra looked up, terrified. The net descended faster, crackling with deadly light. Ethan grabbed her hand and ran deeper into the canyon. The walls around them glowed faint blue from her energy, lighting the way. They reached a narrow ridge overlooking the desert below, empty, endless except for one strange sight. Far away, high in the red sky, a single bright star shone where no star should be. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The red star. Ethan whispered, That's where she's coming from. He turned to Lyra. You see it? That's our way out. But before they could move, a blast struck the ground behind them. Ethan fell hard, his shoulder burning. His blaster flew out of reach. The commander appeared, stepping through the smoke. His black armor reflected the red moons. You should have stayed loyal, soldier. Ethan glared up, blood on his lips. Loyal to what? Murder? The commander raised his gun. To humanity. Ethan's voice was low and cold. Then humanity forgot what that means. Before the commander could fire, Lyra screamed, a sound not human but powerful, filled with pain and light. The ground shook. Rocks split apart. The sky above them opened like glass cracking. Through that split, a massive silver ship emerged, smooth, silent, glowing with the same blue light as Lyra's skin. The alien mother had arrived. The commander turned his gun toward the ship. Fire on target! The soldiers aimed their rifles upward. Beams of red light shot toward the sky. But before they could hit, the ship emitted a pulse of blinding blue energy. Every weapon stopped. Every machine froze. Ethan shielded his eyes as wind and light surrounded them. The mother's voice echoed in his mind. Ethan Holt. Step back. He looked down at Lyra. She was floating now, her eyes pure white, her small hands glowing brighter than stars. Lyra, no, he shouted. She turned to him, smiling softly. Family. Safe. Then she lifted her hand, and the energy burst outward. The shockwave swept across the canyon. Drones, ships, and soldiers all froze, trapped in blue light. Then, one by one, they vanished, erased like dust in sunlight. When the light faded, only silence remained. Ethan dropped to his knees, gasping. Lyra was still there, standing in front of him, the light fading from her skin. She looked older somehow, stronger, but her eyes were full of tears. He reached for her. You did it, kid. You saved us. Above them, the alien ship lowered silently. A ramp of light extended to the ground. The tall figure of Saren stepped out, her presence warm and powerful. You kept your promise, Ethan Holt, she said. And my daughter kept hers. He smiled weakly. Guess that makes us even. But then he stumbled. Blood stained the sand near his shoulder. Lyra caught him, crying silently. Hey, he whispered, brushing her cheek. Don't cry. You've got your family now. She shook her head, holding him tight. You family too? He smiled faintly. Then I'm the luckiest man alive. As his vision dimmed, he saw the stars above him flicker with new light. Two worlds now connected, and in that moment, Ethan knew he had done what no war ever could. He had brought peace. The dawn on Mars came soft and golden. Dust floated like gold sparks over the silent canyon where the final battle had ended. The air smelled faintly of smoke and strange energy. There were no more hunters, no more weapons, only peaceful silence. Inside the glowing alien ship that now rested gently on the red sand, Lyra sat beside Ethan's still body. Her small hands were glowing faintly, resting on his chest. Her face was calm, but tears sparkled in her eyes. He's still breathing, a gentle voice said. It was Saren, her mother. She knelt beside Ethan, touching the wound on his shoulder. His spirit is strong. He risked everything for you, my child. Lyra nodded, whispering, Ethan, family. Saren looked at her daughter and then at the man lying before her. Then he shall remain so. The seed inside you saved worlds. Now it will save him too. She closed her eyes and soft blue light surrounded Ethan's body. His breathing steadied. His heartbeat grew stronger. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Lyra's glowing smile. Welcome back, she said softly in her halting English. Ethan blinked at the strange light around him. His body didn't hurt anymore. The wound was gone. He sat up slowly, staring at Saren. You healed me? Saren smiled faintly. No, she did. Her bond with you is what brought you back. He turned to Lyra. Guess I owe you again, kid. She laughed, really laughed. For the first time, the sound was soft but full of life. The ship rose slowly above the canyon. From the windows, Ethan saw Mars's surface glowing red and gold beneath them. The human military ships that once hovered above were now silent, powered down, suspended by the alien mother's peace field. Saren spoke quietly as they climbed higher. We did not come for war, Ethan Holt. We came seeking a home, a place to share our gift. But fear turned us into enemies. Your choice showed that peace is still possible. Ethan looked out at the sky. If only my people would see it that way. Saren touched the window and a projection appeared. Images of human cities on Mars, people looking up as her ship passed overhead. No one fired. No one attacked. They will, she said, because they saw what you did. One man standing against an army for a child not of his kind. That kind of courage changes more than laws. It changes hearts. Ethan smiled faintly. Never thought I'd end up being a symbol. Symbols are born from truth, Saren said. As the ship left the planet's atmosphere, stars filled the sky. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He had seen stars before, but never like this. They weren't distant now. They felt alive. Lyra floated beside him, pointing to one shining red star ahead. Home, she whispered. Saren nodded. That is the world of the Veari. You are welcome there, Ethan Holt. You are family now. He looked between them. Family? Saren smiled gently. In our language, family means more than blood. It means the one who protects, the one who chooses love over fear. Ethan's eyes softened. Then, yeah, family sounds about right. Days later, the ship entered orbit around a vast blue-white planet surrounded by silver rings. It glowed like a pearl in the dark. Lyra pressed her hands against the glass, eyes wide with joy. The alien city shone below, towers of crystal, rivers of light, and gardens floating in the air. Creatures of many shapes walked together, glowing faintly in the eternal twilight. Ethan couldn't believe what he saw. It's beautiful, he whispered. No war, no greed? Saren looked at him. It was once that way for humans too. Perhaps it will be again. She led him to the heart of the ship, where a circular room pulsed with light. In its center floated a small glowing sphere, the seed of harmony. It looked like a living star. This, she said, is what my daughter carried. Now because of you, it will awaken fully. It will speak to both our worlds. Ethan stepped closer, feeling warmth in his chest. The seed pulsed once, twice, then it shone brighter, sending beams of light through the ship. Across space, two planets, Earth and Veari, were suddenly linked by a golden bridge of energy. Lyra smiled up at him. You did it, Ethan. He knelt beside her. No, we did it. Time passed. Ethan stayed among the Veari, learning their ways. The people treated him not as a stranger, but as one of them. Lyra grew taller, wiser, her light brighter than ever. She spent hours each day learning about humans, asking Ethan endless questions about his home, and every night, they stood together under the twin moons of her world, looking up at the distant red planet. Do you ever miss it? She asked one evening. Ethan smiled softly. Sometimes. But then I remember why I left. I didn't belong there anymore. Not after meeting you. She leaned her head against his arm. You belong here. He looked out at the stars and nodded. Yeah, I guess I do. Years later, stories of Ethan Holt, the human who protected the alien child, spread across both galaxies. He became a legend among both species. The man who stopped a war not with power, but with kindness. And whenever people asked Lyra about him, she always said the same simple words. He was more human than most humans. Beneath the endless stars, Ethan walked through a garden of glowing trees, Lyra laughing beside him, her light mixing with the soft glow of the world around them. Two hearts from different worlds. One promise that changed the stars forever, the end,